This this is an album I wanted from 2018, a hip hop album. This is the kind of hip hop I wanted for the year. Saba is a Chicago singer, songwriter, rapper, I guess you could say. He sings and writes and raps. So, and he broke through a few years back from a collaboration with Chance the Rapper, if you remember, titled Angels, a great song, probably my favourite song, or one of my favourite songs on the Colouring Book album. Definitely a really fun, summery bop, honestly. It was just everything you want from a jam to play in the summertime. Still holds up to this day. And then he released The Bucket List, an album that got a pretty much general, it's alright, you know, across the board. Everyone that's heard it was just like, yeah, it's alright, it's alright. And so from that, I guess, I was just like, well, Saba is alright. I probably won't be that interested in much of his music in the future. But it turns out, no, that's wrong, and you should never let an artist go, I guess, just based on one project. You should always go back to them project after project to see what they can do, and here is what he can do. Care for Me is a very personal album. It is a very emotional album. It is the kind of emotional you don't ever expect from much of modern hip-hop, I suppose you could say. I mean, a lot of it is very much based on just in the moment, kind of short, simple, catchy, trap inspired, just party anthems. But of course, when you dig deeper into hip-hop, you find there is a lot of emotional stuff out there, and Saba is just now added to that list. And the songwriting on this album and the storytelling is impeccable, honestly. Like, this guy has just improved so much in his storytelling. Like, some of these tracks you really are like interested in where they're going and just how he tells the stories. It's kind of like a bit like a Royce to 5'9" on his music, just always tells really good stories. And here we have Saba as well. Like, I didn't really get that from The Bucket List, but he's just improved loads. The track Prom/King, I mean, a lot of the tracks are split into like two parts like that. The first half being about one thing and then the second half. But I love how like each time the track has that sort of concept. The transition from like the next track is just so seamless, like you don't even notice it, but there's still like a quite like a significant change that still makes the track change in its pace as well. And on this track, it's quite a strange story about how he's going to prom with his date, but then he sort of like gets threatened to be killed by his date's brother. Like, it's pretty crazy, but just the way he's telling it is really like just such like a screenplay, I guess. It's just more than just listening to a person sing a song. It's like an actual story being told. And then the relationship does improve, and then it's sort of like about like the importance of like family and stuff like that. But then in the second half, King, this is about the story of the brother who threatened to kill him, Walter or Walt, then dying. It's like, what? I mean, fucking Coronation Street couldn't write it any better than this type of shit. What the hell? But it is really sad though, because like their relationship did end up blossoming, and then I do believe this might be a real story, because he's talking about writing The Bucket List, and then Walt was about to drop his own tape at the same time, but then he gets killed. But earlier in this track, it's kind of sad as well, because like he says like, oh, he can dodge death like a magician, and then like, you know, later on it turns out he does end up dying. Many of the tracks do follow like a similar story in talking about Walt, because the album is actually about that as well. Like, the majority of it does focus on his death, and you do get it on the opening track as well, Busy / the Siren, featuring The Mind, who is a frequent collaborator on plenty of like Chicago rappers as well. He's worked with No Name and Mick Jenkins, who I do believe has an influence on Saba as well, because there are times where his voice does sound like Mick Jenkins. And this is another track where it's just like, you know, he's talking about how he's busy, and, you know, things are kind of like depressing, and he may be using busy as an excuse to sort of like just avoid contact because of how sad he is. And he really goes in on his emotions on this track, just really just reeling off just everything he's feeling. It's such like an insightful just journey into how he's coping with like the death of the person he's lost. And then in the second half, it's called Sirens, and it's like obviously referencing, you know, sirens of a police car, because a police car has come to waltz, you know, death, and they're now trying to like see what's going on, of course, and see the situation. And of course this is like a big part to Saba, because like this is his closest friend. And all these stories and all these tracks are just soaked in just jazzy, smooth instrumentals that honestly sound just perfect. They really do. Like, it's not the kind of thing like, oh, it's jazzy and soulful, it must be 90s inspired. It doesn't ever really sound like that. I know the Elzai in Crisis album is probably the epitome of that. Whereas this, to me, just feels like just perfect, beautiful instrumentation to fit the kind of stories that he's going for. There aren't really many moments on the album that feel uplifting. Of course, there are some really good hooks. There's a bit of an annoying one on the track Logout with Chance the Rapper, where it's like da 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 da. Yeah, I don't really like that one. Probably my least favourite one. But generally, this is an album that's just so like mellow, but it feels quite relaxing as well, especially considering the fact that the subject matter of these tracks is really deep. But it still does feel like it's soothing. It's like if you weren't paying attention to the lyrics, you would just think this was a very chilled, very soft, very background music album. But then as soon as you pay attention and go further into the lyrics, it's like, oh god, wow. And that's what I love about it, actually. I think that's really good that it does that to you, because it makes you want to focus on the lyrics more, and then it gives the music more meaning, and that's the purpose of music for me. I mean, you can't just bob your head to everything you hear. You've got to have something with substance, and this album has so much of that. I like the track Broken Girls, because he's saying here like, oh, he's in love with broken girls. It might just sound like, oh, he's just talking about girls, but it's actually really potent because he's broke himself, so he feels like he needs a broken girl because that can help him and they can help each other, and like it ends up giving it a lot more meaning rather than it just being like an anthem about, hey, I want girls. The track Smile actually is a bit more of an uplifting track. I know I said there aren't really any, but I suppose this one might be a track that does have that going for it, because the chorus is really just happy, you know. It's like smile, smile, smile. And I don't know, I like that chorus. It's very simple, but it actually has a lot of weight behind it on the album too, because this track seems to be like a bit more of like a silver lining type one, I guess. You know, he's thinking like, oh, I should do this, I should do this, I should start doing more things, I should be more optimistic in thinking, and maybe it will change the way things are in my life. Grey has a beautiful piano melody going for it. Love this one. It sounds gorgeous on the song. It's just wonderful. And the chorus actually reminds me of the Frank Ocean line that's like, the best song wasn't the single, but you weren't either. That part, because he's talking about here, like the B-side wasn't like even the best song and stuff like that. It just totally reminds me of that. No, sorry, the B-side was the best song. It is what he's saying. He's alluding to that whole idea. Oh yeah, that's not even like the most well-known song, but yeah, it's better. You know, that kind of thing. Not really sure if this thematically fits on the album. I don't know if it's some kind of metaphor or anything. I haven't worked that out. But it still sounds really good. Just not really a highlight, I guess, in terms of lyrics. And then the album closes out with a more like religious theme going for it. You know, heaven is all around me. You know, it's a nice way to end off the album. I mean, a lot of people do believe in that kind of thing, where they're protected by heaven, they're protected by God, And if that's something to get you through something like he's gone through, then there's no harm in that at all, really. And it's such a great way to end the album. It's a great album. This is a really good album. I wasn't expecting much from it, and it's probably going to go down as one of my favourite hip-hop albums of the year. So, hey. I'm going to go B+. You should definitely check it out if you haven't already. I'm sure you may have it already because it has been out over a week now. But if you haven't, go listen to it. Let me know your thoughts. If you have heard it, let me know if you think it's going to be one of your favourites of the year. And that's it. Subscribe, please. That'd be great. Yeah, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Comment below and all that stuff. And yeah, have a good day. Have a good day. Bye.